just making sure that everybody is aware on how they intend to try and run through this session, at least from the very start, as Tukey pulls up to his grid box. Thought for a moment he was going to park where that has decided to, a Formula Kai. But everyone making their way in towards their respective grid boxes. There is one missing behind the Red Bull. I believe that to be, I assume that's Tukey who's out of the way, but he does finally pull in. Meraki comes across team radio. Let's do it. Well, let's do it indeed, Tom. And why don't you take us away for our sprint race?
All the potentials down to turn 1, and look already at the angle Lens the Goat is at. Returning Tom, 2 McLarens waiting in the wings, short run down to turn number 1. And for the first time this evening, here in Abu Dhabi, we are racing, sprinting down into the first braking zone. How will Tom cope with this? We don't know. He's not got off the grid particularly well, and already Lens the Goat seizes the opportunity, diving to the inside and nabbing the lead from the Red Bull Racing driver's pocket, and through goes the other Papaya car as well. Tom Bean is struggling to hold on to places. There goes 1, there goes 2 as well. Now a bit of contact as he goes jumping and cascading over the bumpy runoff period, and now Jess Ball trying to hang it out around the outside. Aston Martin of Grid Jokes, qualified on pole position in Suzuka a couple of weeks ago, interloping right at the sharp end. The 2 championship protagonists still towards the back. Ben's made up a couple of places, just 1 for Meraki.
They've got moves to make in the sprint race if they want to try and take the title here this afternoon. Ryan L83 looks in towards the heavy braking zone. They're 3 or 4 wide further back, but everybody tries to navigate their way through nice and calmly. Grid Jokes around the outside of Tom on controller, who had that amazing save earlier on, and now he proceeds up into 3rd place. Timo Marlik's made up a considerable number as well, as he's up into 13th already.
Look at that, a couple of drivers tumbling through the field. Cream 17 now last. Concept 7 has dropped like a stone as well. Safso dropping behind Razin Chai, and the Aston Martin very, very wide there. Could leave him vulnerable to Tim Malik, who still has the Mercedes of Chappers to deal with. Formula Kai and Fratic still nose to tail as well. Haven't yet knocked 10 bells out of each other, but there's still 9 laps of this sprint race to go as Tim Malik tucked right up underneath the rear wing, almost alongside his former teammate in the final sector.
Fabio's making moves as well, almost tried to dispatch Chesnoy gaming in towards the final sector, but Lens the Goat leads and ends the first lap of 10 here in the sprint race in Abu Dhabi. Ryan L83 right on the rear gearbox of his teammate for the evening as he tries to push him around the first few corners. Tom's dropped down 3 from where he started on pole position. I think there's someone falling down the order. Razin Chai might have had an issue as he drops considerably and well and truly to the back of the order.
Not good news at all. Didn't quite see it there, but that is not good for him. Trying to chase that, as we said, best of the rest position in the championship. Tim Malik already inside the top 10 as Scotty Designs has looped it round as well into the braking zone of turn 4. You can see the Ferrari plastered down the barriers. And that is 19th for our meme king. Grid Jokes, we thought, might be one of the favourites starting towards the front. Now going to try and hang it around the outside of Ryan L83 to take 2nd place off his hands. Outside turns to the inside of the chicane, but the McLaren keeping his foot in it around the outside for the time being. Ryan L83 has rebuffed that assault.
Both of them with a double dose of DRS left and right. They tried to go as Ryan L83 by the barest of margins squeezes past his teammate of Lens the Goat, and now in towards the race lead. There was a moment there that almost certainly his underwear will not be clean as he makes his way through turns 10, 11, 12 and 13. And that means Ryan L83 up 3 positions from where he once started. Grid Jokes will now try and dispatch Lens the Goat, who could try and play the ultimate Lando Norris strat, or should I say Oscar Piastri strat, as we head in towards the final race of IRL, and Jess Ball trying to hold her own as Fabio defends around the outside.
Jess chucked it up the inside of the final corner, must have been contact, and yes, we see the Red Bull backwards, one of the Saubers off the road, both Hasses caught up in that as well. That was Chesnoy sending it down the inside of Jess and in Fratting. I think has caused a bit of a car park corner, not for the first time this season in the Creator Series sprints.
Absolutely right. Let's see what Chesnoy Gaming is made of, because he's got some resilience left in that tank. I'm almost certain of it 3 wide for Razin Chai, who's made the almighty of comebacks. I'm fairly sure I saw an Alpine's front wing go flying off there. That will be Concept 7, who's been caught up in the twists and the turns of that opening first sector. But now we run down towards turn 6 and 7 once again for all of our drivers to try and make some opening moves. Sprint races are all about that. It is one sprint until the end. There is no chance about strategy. Oh, as Lens the Goat goes completely too deep in towards turn 6, unfortunately rear-ending the car in front.
Takes a chunk out of Tukey's rear wing. I'm wondering if Tim Malik has some damage, because he was one of the big losers in that big kerfuffle on the previous lap. Tukey now trying to dispose of Grid Jokes. The other McLaren potentially falling backwards. Jess Ball battling around the outside, desperately trying to get ahead of this wounded McLaren car, hanging it all the way around the outside. But the door is going to get slammed in her face there, and she will remain for the time being in position number 7. Ben, yes, is missing that left-hand end plate. Not good news. Jake, I saw it, just floored it off the circuit around the outside of everyone around the final corner. He's managed to jump Ben and to the tune of 3 places.
Jake's now only 2 positions away from scoring points, and valuable points of out here in the sprint race. He'll have Chappers and Lenz to go. Of course, Lenz starting all the way up in second place. We ride on board with Formula Kai, who's just behind the Sauber of our championship contender. That's Chappers looking to the inside of Lenz to go. The Meraki tries to switch but gets the undercut, and that is 2 positions for the price of 1, and is one of our championship contenders well within point scoring range now.
It's getting battered from pillar to post and now tumbling through the field. He might have just dropped it. Yes, there's an Aston Martin of Safso off into the pickets as well. And that's 2 more taken out of contention to battle for some decent points-paying positions. Datgar Vince, I think, has just got past his former teammate Tom in the battle for 5th and 6th. And Tim Martin continued to battle and grind away at this. Got himself ahead of Chappers, who I think also has a little bit of damage. But Jake inside the top 8 now.
Being told in the Twitch chat, Ben has 75% damage. I think take that with a bit of pinch of salt, because you never know quite how the wings are going to be affected here, but Ben almost certainly well and truly in the wars. Formula Kai and Jess Ball battling it out up in 7th and 8th place respectively. Mahas just getting better of the Williams as Meraki once again makes his way back in towards points contention as he dispatches Jess Ball. Formula Kai made the better of Tom, who of course still racing on controller, and for the time being loses out to Meraki as well.
4 points, the gap now as Jake moves up into 7th. That'll be 2 points added to the kitty. Still doesn't mean that if he finishes 2nd and Ben wins the race, Ben will still pick up the championship, providing there aren't any bonus points thrown in there. So Ben at the moment still has a little bit of buffer to work with. But if Jake continues to pick up places and pick them off one by one, Ben's going to be under serious pressure going into the main race.
Certainly is indeed, but don't count him out yet. He's still got opportunities to try and make moves here, but Razin Chai, I think, is trying to put an end to that as we see the kicks out in the distance, just running off wide as he's still side by side with Tim Mardik, who just holds his own. Lolly Nova now the blocking force between point scoring positions for our native Australian. Look behind Karim 70, I think thinking about a move to the inside. We can see that wing damage on display. Oh, that's surely more for one of our championship contenders. Front right end plate this time. Absolutely going into Narnia.
That 100% point scoring record in the sprint this season looks like it's going up in flames for Tim Mardik, because he's got some more significant damage after just clattering into a couple of cars going into turn number 4. The battle for the lead continues to rage on though. Ryan L83 has been reeled in by 1, 2 and 3 cars. Infratic at the back. Through goes the Williams. Through goes the Aston Martin, from 1st to 3rd for Ryan L83.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. Fabio wants to try and get into contention here as well. You can see just sniffing on the rear of that McLaren as they make their way through the final, or the first of the opening corners of the 3rd and final sector. Ryan L83 catches the car magnificently, and that opens the door now for Fabio to try and sneak his way through, and Race Control hand him a 3-second penalty just for, well, double bit of bad luck for Ryan L.
Tom continued to fall through the field. Now 14th for the Season 3 champion. Jess Ball down in 15th after starting in P4. So the drivers that were towards the front beginning to tumble through the field. Formula Kai, though, absolutely flying out there, as I think Ches has looped it round in the final set with a bit of a lazy spin and dropping down to P19. Kai could be one of the big jokers in this championship pack. The likes of Lolanova, the likes of Razin Chai as well, because they are very quick and no longer driving with realistic performance cars, I should say. That's going to put everybody back on that level playing field right at the sharp end.
Interesting to note as well, Safso's the only driver that has made their way in for a pit stop off of the hard tyres on towards the mediums. Now my assumption would be that has to be purely for damage reasons. You wouldn't traditionally see a pit stop here, and Chesnoid Gaming joins him going for the medium strategy, but of course that will be surely for a front wing repair. But crossing the line up at the back, you see him just still on the lead lap, still holding on for dear life, and we go back towards the front. Tim Mardik now in 11th place, but look at the gap in front of him, over 2 seconds to Krim 70, and I think that's going to be some bonus points that he really would have wanted heading into the main race.
Say goodbye to picking up points in this sprint race and maybe take the championship lead away from Meraki. The other Sauber trying to dance around the outside of Kareem 17. They stay interlocked into the final sector. It's going to be Razin that's in the ascendancy on the inside. Kareem with a little bit of damage, struggling for front downforce. Going to fight it out though, getting his elbows out is the former champion as Razin Chai's run off the road, and the Sauber for the time being having to sit and wait behind the second RB.
Absolutely right, the battle rages on here as we enter on to the 7th lap. We've got 4 to go in the Grand Prix. Meraki sat rather pretty behind Vince, both of them technically still in with a chance of the championship, but Meraki knows what job he has to try and do today. Any points that he scores in the sprints are to his favour, heading into both qualifying and the main race, and Safso becomes our 3rd driver to pick up a penalty here this afternoon. To the inside goes that guy Vince on Ryan L83, making that 5th place for the Alpine. Opens the door as well for the kick Sauber of Meraki just to slide his way through. They run down the DRS straight towards turn 6 once again. A prime overtaking spot here at Yas Marina, just able to try and slam it late on the brakes, but Meraki thinking the better of it this time around. Will get the double dose of DRS as they run down towards turn number 9.
I've been slightly concerned there because Ryan missed his braking point ever so slightly, almost slammed into the back of the Sauber. As it is, the DRS is going to be used for Meraki again, and that is a top 5 place for the Season 4 champion and championship leader. Tuki has just lost the lead to Gridjoke's ad in front. The gap in the championship, though, with those 4 points going to be 6, which is now the difference, more than the difference, between first and second in the main race.
Absolutely right. The question will be, and the answer will come at the end of the main race as to whether this was enough or whether that DNF potentially Zandvoort reverse is what cost Ben the championship here this afternoon. It would, of course, equal Jake in terms of championships to Team Marduk. They'll both be on 2, should it go the way of the man from Essex. But, of course, time will tell. We've still got a qualifying session. And, of course, we still have a main race to come. That's going to be Tuki running off wide as Fabio comes over the team radio. I'm double downshifting. It feels like I'm going to spin, and that quite possibly could happen, especially if you double downshift. The rear axles of the car just want to try and lock together. Of course, they'll spin you out if you try and do it a little bit too drastically.
That Ferrari seemingly as nice to drive as it seems to be in real life over at Qatar. But Fabio doing a good job, although he's going to have to go on the defensive because the big squeeze shown to Formula Kai is trying to force his way down the inside. We could be 4 wide. Contact once again between Kai and Infratic. Tuki a little bit balked at the apex there, gets slammed into by the pair of them. Kai runs off the road as these two continue to sink their teeth into one another. Story after story after story, so often entangled and intertwined they have been in the past few Creator Series campaigns. Kai now has the inside. I think he has got that spot on the podium.
He absolutely does, but the more these drivers continue to battle, it's more opening up for Meraki to potentially try and come through and win this from 19th place from the back of the grid, and this could be a monumental victory for Meraki if he's able to do so. They've still got 2 laps of racing to go as they come towards the start-finish line for the 8th time, and there's still an opportunity for him to win this race, let alone a podium, and they'll be crucial points in his championship charge with Team Marduk. But we watch Infratic battling, of course, his old friend running down towards the first corner. Both cars powered by the same power unit, the Ferrari technical power unit in both the Ferrari and the Haas car, as they make their way through on towards lap 9.
Wouldn't be surprised if Jake ends up winning this. We know that he likes to backdoor races and just suddenly spawn in P3 and finish on the podium. Well, he's got 2 drivers in front that, let's say, have got a bit of a interesting history in the Creator Series. Formula Kai and Infrat, we've already seen them getting very, very feisty with one another. And Gridjokes and Tuki, yet to win so far in the Creator Series. If they get a little bit spicy in their battles, that could present a really good opportunity for Jake to extend his championship lead. Tuki under pressure. Kai's going to try and have a look around the outside early on the brakes, just trying to prepare a bit of a switchback to have a go again.
Of course, that guy Vince now in the top 6, all battling it out for what will be the sprint race victory, the last sprint race of the season, and of course the last one in 2025 was Formula Kai just banging wheels with Tuki. But just to answer you in the chat, yes, Tom is, of course, Tom that you all know and love from the Creator Series, making a one-off return as Tuki slams the door rather aggressively as they made their way in towards turn number 10. The Williams not wanting to give up second place on the podium here, Tom.
Fighting very, very hard. Got just over a lap to go. Yellow flag is out. I think there's a Red Bull going slowly. Ches again, or it might be Tom backing off, and another little mistake for the Season 3 champion. But look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars line astern, rounding in the final corner for the penultimate time, and big, big implications for 2 of the potential champions, although Dak Gavin needs at this stage a bit of a miracle to keep himself involved.
Here we go then, 3.281 miles to go here in the sprint race. We're on lap 10 of 10. It's all down to this for our top 6 drivers, all of them remaining penalty free. Which way will it go? Which driver will take the top spot? And surely some confidence as we head in towards qualifying and the main race scenario. Tuki has the opportunity. He's got the prime move to make with the DRS, as Gridjokes will remain unable to open that rear wing in towards turn 6 and turn 7. But you can see the chase back that are continually bowing down to them. He looks to the left, he looks right, but doesn't go for the move. Kai goes very late on the brakes in towards turn 6. Always running into the back of the Williams, but now it's Tuki with another opportunity, the final DRS zone of the circuit, to try and get this move done. But he's surely going to be under some sort of time pressure from the Haas car, who goes right then left, looks towards the inside of turn 8. Both of them go spinning around, releasing Infratic and Meraki up into second place. Now is the potential champion for the season, Tom.
Pendulum swinging once again in favour of the Season 4 champion, Jake. All of his Christmases have come in November there because Formula Kai has taken out 2 of the drivers that sat in front of him. He's going to end up in P4. Can Ben capitalise? I don't think he's going to be able to pick up any points. Now he's really close to the back of Grid Jokes. Could he win this round the final corner? I don't think so. It's green versus green as the yellow flags come out. But it's Grid Jokes who will take a victory in the Creator Series for the first time. Meraki needed a good sprint race to consolidate his championship position. That is absolutely what has happened there. And he's been dealt a big favour by Formula Kai there. Tried to send it down the inside of Tukey, slammed into the Williams and took Infratic with him.
Somehow Kai's dived down the inside and come out the best of the 3 drivers that were involved. Tukey dropped down to 6th. Fabio drops all the way down to 17th place, and actually even further as his teammate Scotty Designs passes him on the exit of turn 15. I think they are just both parked there at the final corner. I wonder if we're able to go and have a look at both Ferraris having a bit of a hug at the final corner. Oh, they're both doing donuts to see off the season. Very lovely from both our Scarlet Red cars, and the Aston Martin of Sasso comes to join them. Fabio comes over the team radio, and I'm sure that is not something. That is probably a lot of silence.
Not good. For Ben, that's going to be a bit of a kick in the teeth. 4 points being gained for Jake when he was P5. He probably could have dealt with that 6-point difference. 9 points, that's a pretty sizable margin. Jake's going to have a poor race if Ben's going to get himself right back into the thick of this action.
Absolutely. Loads of drivers joining for donuts. Lens the goat, Tom. That's complete 5 as well, as we saw earlier. All of them under the lights, just celebrating the end of the season and the end of 2025. But don't forget, folks, we've still got a race to go. Still got 58 laps of racing. And, of course, a short qualifying session to round off the season. But the advantage, well and truly, is in the hands of Meraki here, Tom.
100%. We thought the sprint race was going to have big implications. And now very much does. As Fabio with another 10-second penalty, trying to burn up those tyres as much as possible as the Ferraris end up in 17th and 18th. Not too far away from where they're going to finish in the main Qatar Grand Prix. Pirelli tyres feel like they're on fire. Please have a bit of mercy. They've still got another 58 lap race to go.
I didn't realise Pirellis could talk, but if they could, I'm sure a few from Qatar in real life would be having a good chat with us. We watched Lens the Goat, the final driver who we're waiting to come across the line. He's teasing us as he dips the rear wheels close and closer to that second flag, yet to cross them. Lens, we appreciate the donuts. We do want to try and get on with the qualifying in the race, if you don't mind, old chap.
Places to be, people to see. Come on, let's get going. Yes, thank you very much, Lens, for that one. These bonus points are going to be interesting to look at as well. I doubt Ben will probably get the cleanest driver, considering for a large portion of the first 50% of that, he was getting battered from pillar to post. But it is Grid Jokes that takes it ahead of Meraki. Big step. 7 points gained over Ben. 9 points now the difference in the standings. Datgavins is thrown out of the equation. Lonanoba is as well, despite coming through from 17th to finish 7th. Cream 17 was a quiet one. Comes home in 4th behind Formula Kai. Tukey could have been a podium for the second time this season. Wasn't to be. Rhino 83 just missing out. And Ben ending up in P11, wounded over the line and probably kicking the solar plexus as well after seeing what happened on that final lap.
Absolutely right. Well, we're going to hand back over to our presenter extraordinaire, Mr. Alex Heron.
Thank you very much, TK and T-Dub. We are back from a very exciting sprint race. And Carl, it was looking good for Meraki, and then it looked even better on that, well, pretty much second to last corner as we came to the end of Abu Dhabi. But that consolidates his championship charge. We knocked 2 drivers out, Lonanoba and that guy Vince. It's a bigger gap between Meraki and Ben, but you have a lot of action to show us from that sprint race. So, Carl, take us through it.
Oh, do I ever. Gather round in Clipbook Corner, everyone. Let's just have a breather and just reflect on some of the action that we have just witnessed in front of our very eyes. First of all, I don't usually highlight the formation lap. However, Kareem 70 had a bright idea. What if, and this is a hypothetical which he turned very quickly not into one, what if I turn around and absolutely assassinate someone? That someone was Ben. He got absolutely rogered, and, well, that probably set up the majority of his race, to be honest with you. Ben did have a scintillating start, by the way. Like, absolutely chopped down the inside, used his experience excellently, so credit where credit is due. His start was scintillating. However, it all sort of fell downhill. But first, downhill for one other driver. The green machine, that is Razin Chai, through the final corner. Displaces Scotty Designs, by the way. But then he's got Formula Kai and Infratic in front. Goes for a big old send. on Formula Kai. Just a bit too optimistic, maybe. The red arrow will have been there, but Fabio won't have been expecting Razin to have sent it as hard as he did. As a result, a half spin. Luckily, though, no damage for the Kick Sauber driver. We then move on to lap number 3, because this is where TMF Marduk sprint race sort of started to unravel. Up to that point, a great crack at the whip. Make no mistake about that. But it's Chesnoid going for a move on, I believe that's Jess Ball in the Williams car. Gets, well, just miscalculates it, chops on the rear end. Kai looks to avoid, goes to the right, then snaps to the left. TMF Marduk with just nowhere to go. That was the 75% damage that he accrued so early on in the day. Despite that, though, still had some great pace until this moment. Through the first complex he goes, he apologised here, admittedly. He said to Razin, I have chock loads of understeer. And you can see it, just visualise for yourself, through the right-hander. Razin, therefore, sweeps on through, shows the nose to the inside on Jess Ball, but then Razin has another moment, another mistake, locks the rear brakes up, just snaps out. Ben avoids the first car, but Jess Ball just can't move out of the way in that situation. Ben said over the I didn't manage to clip it, but he said simply, why is everyone so incompetent? Frustration boiling over, as shown on the bottom right of your picture. Just incandescence for TMF Marduk, but the big points come on race day. More on that in a bit, though. The saga between Kai and Tuki started on lap number 9. So, through onto the DRS straight. Tuki with no battery at all. Cleverly defends the inside. A little bit of a biff on the rear axle, but no real damage done as of yet. This, on the whole, was absolutely clean. Kai holds it round the outside, still holds it, enough space there, but just tries to cook it on the full throttle off the racing line. And as a result, there's always going to be a snap on the rear end. Takes him into the side pod of Tuki. Nothing that Tuki could have done, admittedly. Might have been a bit aggressive with the chop on the outside, but it's all hindsight. If Kai hadn't made that mistake, he would have had a better chance at having a run on the Williams driver. But then we came to the last lap, and this is where it all unravelled for 2, 3, and 4. And, well, the pearly gates opened up for Meraki, who extends his championship lead immensely going into the main race day and this qualifying session. Loads of ERS once again. Kai, smart with his battery usage, has plenty to burn. Tuki does not have that luxury. Switches to the inside this time, but switches off the battery before he gets to the apex, which I was really surprised with. Maybe it's touched too early, because if you're not quite alongside the rear axle, you're never going to really quite put yourself in a position to make that manoeuvre stick. And as you can see, brake as late as he damn well dares with the compromised line. He's never quite, just pokes alongside Tuki's rear axle. Yes, the proximity arrow will come up, but it's just never a guarantee. So as a result, Tuki's always going to turn in. There's always going to be a collision. Kai sent spinning out. It was, to quote Martin Brundle, a day late and several dollars short from the Haas driver. And as you can probably imagine, there's one man in our final clip that's been absolutely chopped by all of this. Through to the left-hander, comes in frantic, surveys Formula Kai, switch to the inside, sees a potential opportunity, just goes slightly wide of the apex. Regardless, wouldn't have mattered if he tried to go for the inside, because he has to go out of the steering. Contact made with Tuki, and that was the end of it. Fabio absolutely disconsolate with that particular incident after already going head-to-toe with Formula Kai. What a dramatic sprint race, and that's only part 1 of the occasion.
Yeah, it certainly is, and these are the updating live standings, ladies and gentlemen. Lolly Noba and that guy Vince are officially out of the race. They were very far away from being a title contender, but they are now officially out, which means it's down to 2 is Meraki and TMF Marduk, and there is only 9 points between them. But Ben couldn't have asked for a worse sprint race.
No, he couldn't have. Just didn't click together at all. Sometimes Lady Luck's on your side, sometimes she isn't, and that sprint race just proved it there. But Alex, despite not being here, Alex Gillen's still in 3rd. For now. Lolly is right on his case, though. The battle for 4th place is still a very enticing one, just as much as it is for that championship clash. There are other scores to settle as well, but particularly between Lolly, that guy Vince, and Razin, I think we're going to see a sensational slobber knocker potentially. But mistakes have to be at a minimum. They weren't in the sprint. They've got to iron them out pretty quickly.
Yeah, they certainly do. The gap that was 2 points is now 9 points. And over to our commentary duo of TK and T-Dub. Guys, that was a sprint. It ended in probably the worst way Ben could imagine, with Meraki finding a way into 2nd place. But yeah, starting with TK here. I mean, you had your prediction. You wanted Ben to. You were a betting man, and you said Ben might have a chance of winning this one. Right now, your bet is not looking good. I'd cash out.
Well, you say that, and as much as I'd love to admit that you are, in theory, correct, I go back to my earlier point that if Ben beats Jake in a sprint, he tends to do worse in the main race. So, the inverse of that is if Jake beats him in the sprint, the other way around tends to happen. So my money is still safe, in my opinion.
I think that's definitely a gambler's mentality there from TK. We should preface at this point that we do not agree with gambling here on the Creator Series channel.
Please gamble responsibly.
Gamble responsibly, exactly. Now, Tom, obviously, looking at that race, Ben will probably be feeling a little bit downhearted going into it, especially as we heard on the radio from the start. This is my best chance to gain points on Meraki. Abu Dhabi, as we know, tricky place to overtake. We saw in those last laps how people are desperate to try and make those overtakes. But for Ben, he needs a really good qualifying, and I'd say you probably need pole or even the front row to stand a chance of getting this title away.
I would say so if it wasn't somebody that isn't Tim McMarlick, because wherever Ben starts, he always finds himself in a position where he can challenge either for a podium or for a race win come the end of the Grand Prix. So even if he starts from 19th in this race, I wouldn't be counting him out for potentially coming back through and taking a decent chunk out of it. 9 points, it's definitely not an insignificant hurdle that he's got to try and overcome. That's the difference between first and fourth in Creator Series point scoring terms, 25 down to 16. So he's going to have a favour from somebody, as Jake had from Kai in the sprint race.
Yeah, we certainly will. And of course, we've got that intermediate pole as well, which actually could turn out to be a very important point in this championship fight. But TK, obviously, we've got 2 sessions left, technically. A qualifying session, and then, of course, the main Grand Prix race. Is it full qualifying? I believe so. Short qualifying. Thank God for that. We haven't got all night. But yeah, short qualifying session, 18 minutes to decide who will take the last pole of the season. I'm going to ask predictions again, TK.
Oh, see, when it comes to qualifying, there's some drivers that are absolutely nailed on. Obviously, we're no longer in realistic performance, so we don't have that caveat to really try and lean into. I think it's going to be an interesting one. I don't really want to put my money on anybody. We could see a very, I don't want to say angry driving Fabio, but, when Fabio gets in a certain zone, he tends to do rather well. So my money could be on Fabio for qualifying.
Well, that'll be certainly an interesting one. And Tom, any last predictions? Of course, around a track like Abu Dhabi, slipstream could be really important as well.
I mean, I'll say something that will probably annoy Fabio, but I think Kai is probably a decent shout for pole. I know he got embroiled in those last few laps there, but he was very, very quick.
Well, we're certainly going to see that. Now, as we go into this qualifying session, TK and Tom, take us through the last qualifying session of this Creator Series season.
Oh, almost got caught out there by the transition being quicker than I thought and I was expecting. But here we go, everybody. The clock has begun for qualifying. 18 minutes, put it on your clocks as we get going with all 20 drivers back into contention. Super Noodle Bagel has sorted out whatever issues he may have been having with his PC and does manage to get back into the session. But Tom, now we've got full 20 on the grid. There's not a lot of time to get themselves going and to go for those runs. How are we looking for what's the strategy here? Obviously, Inter's pole point, especially for Ben, will be crucial for them.
100%. He's not somebody that usually picks up a lot of intermediate poles, and if we're going off the record, the best person at intermediate pole positions is Meraki. So there is a chance that Jake could take another step away from Ben in the championship. But of course, we've got so many contenders that could be fighting out for that intermediate pole. I think Ben will probably be thinking cleanest driver. He doesn't usually pick up warnings. If he can stay out of trouble, I think for somebody like Ben, that might be a guaranteed point that he can try and nail down. So that's going to give him a bit of a leg up. If Jake, though, gets the intermediate pole, they'll obviously cancel each other out.
Absolutely right. Let's look at the stats and the numbers again behind the scenes, because I love bringing this sort of element into, since Lolly know that gets disqualified already. We've had less than a minute and a half already of the session without one disqualification. But going back to the numbers and the data, as we like to here on the show, interesting to note, Meraki only has one Inter's pole point over the course of the season. We got it last time out in Las Vegas. Ben has not scored an Inter's pole victory here this season so far.
Yes. When you look at qualifying, it's very one-sided, the head-to-heads. Whether it's intermediate pole, the Qualy head-to-head is 7-2 in favour of Jake, but those 2 times that Ben has qualified ahead of Jake, he's gone on to beat him in the race. That will tell you something, realistically, about the way that the race driving works. And then the race form in recent weeks as well. First 4 races, it was 77 points for Jake, 47 for Ben. That includes 2 sprint races. In the most recent 5 Grand Prix that has 1 sprint race, 64 for Jake, 92 for Ben. It's complete role reversal.
It absolutely is. It's been a topsy-turvy season from start to finish. And of course, at one point, we thought Alex Gillen was going to be involved in the championship until he decided to sit in the naughty corner for wanting to follow no particular Formula 1 team, but get themselves going. And we had the first Aussie Nova fan in chat asking for a reset. I can tell you distinctively, no.
Sorry about that one, lads, but the game is very much the game. Lolly had a championship contention, which is unfortunate, but like we said with Ben, I think Lolly's somebody that if he qualifies badly, he's been so quick in the last few weeks. He is the form horse coming into this finale. If he had a good sprint race and managed to get ahead of Jake, there's definitely a possibility in a world where he could have nicked the championship because he's been so rapid in the last few weeks.
He absolutely has. One of those contenders that you really have to look at and go, you know what, he's had a fantastic run of form. It's been one that has been somewhat unprecedented, actually, with the exception of maybe a couple of rounds that haven't necessarily gone in his favour, the likes of Brazil, where he finished down in P16. Obviously, Lolly Nova's been running through the field.
100%. Won 2 of the last 4 races as well, so comes into this bang in it. Winning last week in Vegas as well, and the top 3 in the championship, coincidentally finishing 1st, 2nd, 3rd in that race, albeit not in the order they currently find themselves in the championship table. Sector times watched though, Tim Marduk fastest in the first sector by a couple of tenths over his main rivals on the intermediate pole push. Safso has got a bit of a leg up in the middle sector though by a tenth, so just trading blows the 2 former teammates. Safso will be first to complete a lap time. He takes the bollard over the start-finish line with him. 27.3. I think we could be seeing drivers dipping their toes maybe into the 26s if they can hook up this tricky final sector.
Absolutely right. We're watching forward with Tim Marduk, who's got, I want to say, a helping hand from his teammate Kai just ahead of it, but I don't think it's going to be necessarily much help when we're heading through the twists and turns of turns 14, 15 and 16. We've come around the final corner. Can he go faster than Safso? He can. It's a 27-1 for Tim Marduk. The advantage back with the Aussie.
Grim 7T flying though, 3 tenths faster than Ben in the middle sector. Could be another drive to play. Spoiler, Razan takes a big chunk out of it, and Kareem absolutely blitzing the final sector. 0.5 seconds and 6 tenths per second clear of anybody else, comfortably in the 26s. That is a big lap time that realistically leaves Tim Marduk knee deep in it because he's not getting that extra point.
Absolutely right. He'll have potentially an opportunity to go again, but he'd have to do back-to-back push laps, unfortunately, for the Australian. Let's see what Meraki can do, because, of course, he's still in contention. Technically, I think he's coming across the line now. Can't go fastest, so this could nullify that bonus point for both of our drivers. Karim 70 at the moment on course to take that bonus point in terms of Inter's pole, but there is still an opportunity for some other drivers, including the likes of Formula Kai, to manage to try and take it away, as Lenz the Goat not opting for an intermediate pole run as he sets the fastest lap on a set of the softer tyres.
Probably slightly concerningly for Lenz Goat, he wasn't actually fastest in the first sector, which is going to be a few alarm bells being raised there for Lenz as he continues to try and get on the scoring sheet for the first time in the F1 Creator Series. Kai's going to be under pressure a little bit to get this time, but he should be okay with about 10 seconds in his back pocket. This final sector is going to be really tricky. The tyre temperatures are going to begin to skyrocket. You've got to be in control of your right foot because the traction zones are so difficult. If you're lazy as well, you can exceed track limits. Kai around the final corner. Does he take it away? Goes P4. He's in the 26s, but 0.5 second down on Kareem.
We've had word from our producer, for all of you Lolly Noba fans in the chat. If he has a pineapple pizza, he will reset something. Didn't specify as to what, so we'll leave that up to your imaginations as Chappers goes fastest on a set of soft tyres. 2 seconds to go then for an intermediate pole, and Grim 70 as he peels back into the pit lane, destroying the barrier. The process claims the final bonus point for Inter's pole of the season.
Keeping it, of course, on as even in that regard between Jake and Ben. About 3 tenths per second separating them as Super Noodle Bagel finding himself pointing in the wrong direction. Tom is about 30 seconds too late to set his intermediate time, but it'll be a fairly decent idea of where his pace sits on control. It would be at the sharp end in his beautiful racing rig, but unfortunately for the Season 3 champion, slowest and by some tune.
I just want to point out to the Lolly Noba fans chat, I can't read Italian. I have no idea what you're saying. Apologies. I'm sure it's probably something rather interesting. I can't tell you. For anyone else watching, go have a look at it. If you can understand Italian, let me know what it says. We'll carry on with qualifying for the rest of it, as Carl says, get the Top Gear translators on it. No, I don't trust them nor anybody else. Ryan 83 on the intermediates for a little bit too long. Has anyone told him that it ends at 12 minutes? I don't think anyone has.
We're going to see what he does. He'll be hoping he doesn't go slowest. Tom currently holding the wooden spoon, and Ryan doesn't go slowest. 27.6, about a second and a half down on what he needed to get that one championship point that would be his first in the Creator Series as well. Ches has invalidated through turn number 1. That is exactly the opposite of what he would have wanted to do. Very easy just to exceed the track limits ever so slightly. They're getting a little bit too lazy on the outside. We saw it a lot in the real life F1 12 months ago in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. I think Verstappen got caught out, Perez, Leclerc, Oscar Piastri as well, all of them exceeding track limits at some stage during qualifying.
Absolutely right. Just to keep you updated on the championship, if you are just tuning in, it's Jake that leads by 9 whole points in the championship as we head in towards the final race of the season. We've got an executive decision from Mr. Hader von der Gullis himself. He's just watched it. It will not be a reset of qualifying. You've heard it here first, folks. We certainly shall watch the clip, as we've been told by our producer in our ear. Carl, are you ready to show us said clip?
I'm absolutely ready. Ready and raring to go. Well, it's quite a contrasting fortunes from the team from Faenza. Colin over, just make it, never mind, apparently he's not. It sums up his quality session quite well. But just trying to get out of the pit lane. Now, watch his wheel inputs very carefully. That is all I will tell you. Comes up to the sharp left-hander and, well, tries to turn, doesn't really turn. In fact, wheel rotation is absolutely in the bin. And as you can see, pauses to try and... His AI then gives him front wing damage in the wall, which is just the start of the comedy. And then, while he's just trying to reset it all, he reverses in the pit lane, trying to make his way out, and there's your disqualification. A double rub of the salt in the wounds for one of the Italian stallions.
I think heartbreaking is most certainly the words that a few would be using to see what happened there. Tom Wilkinson, I just want to hear your verdict on what happened there.
My verdict on what happened, I think you should know that reversing like that distance in the pit lane will always get you disqualified on the F1 game. Yes, you might have your vision blurred a little bit because of what's going on. Safso goes to the top of the timing charts, first driver into the 22s. It sounds horrible, but realistically in that position you're going to have to do a 48-point turn to make sure you don't get disqualified.
Either that or burn out your tyres, which is neither here nor there for our drivers. They prepared to go on what was only an intermediate run. It wasn't going to be the be-all and end-all of the championship run, but unfortunately, as we said, these things happen. The game is the game at the end of the day, as we watch with Fabio making his way through turns 10, 11 for the first time on a set of the softer tyres. He wasn't able to set a first run, or didn't opt to set a run on the intermediate tyres, so this will be his first attempt at putting a timed lap on the board.
Back, of course, in his favoured scarlet colours, and was looking pretty speedy in the sprint as well, looking to continue some decent form. Had a bit of a stinker in Vegas a week ago, but does take over at the top of the timing charts by just under a tenth of a second. The second Ferrari Scotty Designs makes it a scarlet 1-3, dipping his toes into the 122s, but that Vince going even faster on a 22.5. Here is, though, our former two-time champion of the Creator Series, rounding the final couple of corners fastest in the first sector, just about, keeping it pinned to the left-hand side, cutting the beam and going 700ths of a second slower than the Alpine.
Rossi coming across team radio saying, I feel like an angry swarm of Scottish bees. Now that's a throwback and a half if you can remember back to Imola. I believe it was last season when Mr. Carl Peranic was racing. Not only raced, but won as well. You got Mr. Dan Gilligan, who was presenting and driving at the same time, and got rather scared when a few cars were coming at him rather quickly out of the final couple of corners at Imola. But we race now at the end, or the midway point of Q1, should I say, watching on board with the 7th best concept, of course the best one in the Creator Series, as he rounds the final corner to put down his first competitive lap time on a set of the soft tyres. Goes 8th fastest, does the Alpine. And that will be rather pleasing for the team from the French regions. Let's see what Formula Kai could do after his controversy in the sprint race, Tom.
A fairly decent first set for Kyle, though not spectacular. It was the middle sector where he looked pretty rapid in the sprint race, of course, where he was going for some dicey and admittedly unsuccessful overtaking attempts at certain points in that sprint race. Right in the curves nicely. You don't want to smash over that sausage curb on the inside of the second part of that chicane, because it will just bounce you off the circuit, and then you get a terrible run down here, this DRS zone, into turn number 9, which is, I have to say, a really, really fun corner to drive. That horrible chicane that we had a few years ago, just get it off my screen. Got this lovely left hand where you've got to be so committed to gain as much time as you possibly can.
You're absolutely right, and of course don't rule out rain as well. We could see that later on. It's very rare that it rains here in Abu Dhabi, but never say never, especially for a Creator Series lobby that Meraki, I believe, is hosting on a chance for a championship fight, which definitely doesn't scream rigged in the slightest at all. But we watch Kai now across the line, goes fastest to 22.263 for the Haas cars, making it 1 and 3 respectively for himself and Team Malik, who snuck up in towards the top position. Meraki now comes through the final few set of corners as well, the double right hand as we cross underneath the hotel. Just a massive shout out again to Scotty Designs, by the way, for making the sponsor boards that you see on the screen. Meraki spent 112 hours practicing for tonight's race. Creator Series is for fun and totally chill, yeah?
Working though. Fastest in the first sector, matching Kai in the middle sector. Could be taking provisional pole and does by over 1/10 of a second. Championship leader is the provisional pole sitter with just over 5 minutes to go. Needs to get his skates on a little bit to make sure he can get round in time for another go. But round 1 went to Meraki in the sprint. Round 2, the first runs in qualifying, has also gone to the Season 4 champ.
Looks like a man reborn here this afternoon. Can his teammate Razin Chai maybe try and throw a bit of a spanner in the works? Will it be a help or a hindrance from Razin Chai himself? Of course, a champion in his own right. He'll come around the final few corners, see what he can do, and goes 4th fastest. Couldn't quite best out Vince and Guy, but does topple Team Malik another spot down the championship order, or the timing tower order. And Jake comes across the radio. That's a decent lap. Well, I think it's more than a decent lap, Jake. That puts you at least, 1.3 tenths clear at the top.
Solid. And there is a bit of a gap as well between Kai and Vince of 1/4 of a second, so there is some space for some drivers to try and fill that. I'm not going to call it a chasm, but a decent whack of time separating the Haas and the lead Alpine of that guy Vince. Some people were saying that Vince was only quick because it was on realistic performance. I think that is rebuffing some of those suggestions with that Vince comfortably inside the top 5 there. Very, very solid lap time for the Alpine driver. As for the team at Malik, we've said it a number of times, qualifying not really going to concern him. He's only started inside the top 5 twice so far this season. One of them was last week in Las Vegas when he was P3. Then you have to go all the way back to the season opener in Baku where he was P5.
Absolutely right. Apparently we've been told as well behind the scenes, Fabio's changing his equipment mid-qualifying. Obviously not too happy for the double downshift issue that he was experiencing at the start, or at least he's calibrating some shifts, is what we've been told by the man behind the scenes. Thank you, Mr. Carl Peranic, keeping us up to date with all the knowledge that is happening behind the scenes. And I think we do need to restart the lobby for if we restart the lobby for Fabio, he's having issues. I think that's how it works, right?
100%, yeah. Any driver that has issues, we need to make sure we have a duty of care, don't we, to look after them. But Scotty Designs has been disqualified. I wonder if that's for exactly the same thing that we saw earlier on. It's almost like that guy, Scotty, it's like he's listening to us. He's got absolutely perfect timing.
He does. I do wonder if there was maybe something that happened. I don't think he's streaming at the moment, but I'm sure we can probably get him in, or at least get a comment or a statement from him, Mr. Carperanek. I might send you on a bit of a mission to get a statement from Mr. Scotty Designs, by the way, just to figure out what happened to that prancing horse. We watched with Safso making his way through turn 6 and turn 7. Purple in the second sector on his opening run. Let's not get ahead of ourselves slightly, but he is making good progress.
Yeah, set that lap time to put him up into P3, filling the gap that we said between Kai and Vince. Hasn't always been a strong circuit this for our Season 1 champion, in particular in qualifying. Only been inside the top 10 once. That was P9 back in season number 4. But occupying that 3rd spot as things stand, I don't think he's going to get another go in unless he's filled that Aston Martin up with a little bit more fuel.
Yeah, we could see that double outlap come into effect. It has been run by drivers before, of course, get the car down to its absolute minimum weight, but he's diving into the pit lane, leaving it very late indeed. And I wonder if it could be a little bit mistimed here by Safso. Of course, our Season 1 champion here in the Creator Series. He does retire indeed, so won't get to run the track at its most optimal of conditions, as it sits at 30 degrees and the track temperature 24 in the air. So it's quite a nice day out in Abu Dhabi at the moment. The Aston Arena hosting a beautiful venue as Len's the GOAT. Well, I believe that was Latifi's wall that he just wanted to check out. It was a star-studded icon, I believe, for the man in the McLaren outfit.
100% getting cosy with that barrier coming through turn number 14. Doesn't improve. Was 5.5 seconds down on his personal best, and now barreling down into turn number 1. This does look like a fully committed push lap, as it does for Super Noodle Bagel, who does, unfortunately for himself, have a little bit of traffic just to try and contend with the Red Bull.
He certainly does indeed. Super Noodle Bagel, all the packets of Super Noodle Bagel have been recalled because of skill issue defect. They can be returned to all good retailers. You can find the batch numbers on our website for more information. But at the moment, he's trying to qualify here.
PirelliSeries.gg for people wondering why they've been recalled. Another little bit of traffic here coming into the chicane. Really getting bulked firstly by this Williams. Snap of oversteer as well. Not good news for the Silver Arrow, currently down in P14. The Aston Martin is going to get out of the way, but definitely compromised there running through the chicane.
He certainly will do indeed. In towards the long sweeping left-hander of turn number 9. He's got to try and keep his foot planted now until he gets his way towards turn 12. A prime overtaking spot come the race, of course. You may see a few drivers try to dive down to the inside line, but you, of course, compromise yourself as you open up turn 13 and 14 under the hotel bridge and on towards the final section of corners 15 and 16 up towards the line. What can Super Noodle Bagel do here on the final time of season 11? Can he try and improve from 14th place? No, that is where he shall stay for the time being.
Well, it's 3/10, but that was a lap where he was completely out of sync with everybody else. Pretty much had traffic at every single corner. Cream 17 motoring in the middle sector, fastest time of all, but was a little bit down in the first sector, and that didn't look particularly steady, did it, through turn number 9. Bit of a whack of oversteer, just having to try and catch the back of that RB car, he said, Red Bull Racing car. Into the final sector we go, though, with the Season 9 champion, down in 17th. Hasn't got a representative time on the board. A circuit that has been kind to him in the past. Barreling towards the line, goes onto the front row and misses out on provisional pole by 11 milliseconds.
Absolute close margins here in qualifying. Timo Marduk, who's done a personal best in the first and the second sectors, now making his way through into the third and final. Through turn 12 he goes. He's got to get the car rotated. He go off camber as you go through this section of corners. It's so vital to keep the car balanced as well as you possibly can. But can the 2-times champion try and challenge for the top spot? Starting from the front, not to sound too much like Will Buxton, will give the best advantage, but he'll start at best from 5th place, a minimum of 4 places behind our other championship contender Meraki, as his teammate Razin Chai rounds the corner. Formula Kai goes fastest for Team Haas. Razin Chai goes 4th. Let's see what Vince can do now as he comes around the final section of corners. Can not improve in terms of positions, but Meraki, who's played second fiddle for so long in the Creator Series, has an opportunity to come around the final corner now. Can he do it? No, he'll stay second fastest, and Formula Kai, unless we see an absolute miracle from someone further down the order, will start from the front.
I hate to say I called it. We saw how quick he was in that sprint race, and he does get into the 121s. Come on, he says. He absolutely loves it, beating the main championship protagonist. Good late lap from Kareem. Good as well from Datkovitz, continuing that really strong form from the man in the Alpine car. Razin Chai could have maybe been one further spot ahead. Had a big whack of oversteer through the final corner. Really had to catch the back of that Sauber car. Safso and Timo Marduk following in the footsteps of the Season 5 champion. Ben, going from P7 with his main rival in second. It's not disastrous, but he does have a hell of a lot of work to do.
He certainly does indeed. It's going to be an interesting run down towards the first corner. I'll tell you that. Meraki has got to try and play the patient game if he wants to try and do anything with this championship, because it is a long race ahead of him. As we all know, anything can happen when it comes down to a Creator Series race.
I'm trying to see who we're waiting for. I think it might be Lenz again, who stopped going through the 6-7 chicane. We've got the donuts once again. We're about 58 laps too early, 59 laps if you include the formation lap. But once again, the Papaya car putting on a lovely bit of a show for us there. Tom, on his return, the Season 3 champion, does pick up the wooden spoon a second slower than anybody else. But remember, he is on controller, not that incredible sim racing setup that he has got.
Absolutely right. It'll be one that I think he'll cherish. It feels like a return home for Tom as the rear tyres come across Team Radio. How long must I suffer, they say. Not too much longer, but maybe one more stint right at the end of the race, depending on who's still in the championship fight.
Those rear tyres, I mean, they're not going to be happy.
Not in the slightest. I think they will be returning to Pirelli a little bit more wounded than originally thought.
Getting a bit of a treatment, aren't they, in the final qualifying session. Kai on pole, though, looking for people that are out of position. Fabio looked really quick early on, P9. He'll probably be satisfied with that, considering his qualifying record this season hasn't been great. It started in the bottom 5, 6 out of the 9 qualifying sessions, Fabio, so far this season. So to be nestled comfortably inside the top 10, I think he'll be satisfied with that one. But Kai on pole, the championship leader goes from second. The runner-up in the championship, as things stand, P7.
Absolutely. Your complete order then for the race in a few moments' time. Formula Kai starts from the front with Meraki in second. Karim starts third alongside Vince with Razin Chai, Safso, Tim and Mardik, Grid Jokes, Fabio and Tukey lining up as your top 10, with Chappers, Concept 7, Jess Ball, Ryan, Supernoodle, Bagel, Chesnoid Gaming, Lens the Goat, Tom, Scotty Designs, by the way, and Lonnie Nova, starting from the back of the grid after a double DNF from the Scotsman and the native Italian. But for the time being, back to you in the studio.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the last qualifying session of the year. And if you want your lottery numbers, go to T-Dubs, because he got it absolutely spot on for pole position. Formula Kai is on pole. Meraki is on the front row. But the man who is fighting for his championship is down in 7th place. Carl, you have a few clips to go through. Why don't you take us through those very quickly, and then we'll discuss the race start.
Oh, put me on the spot there for a second. Luckily, I was ready, which is good. So, first of all, Inter's lap. I mean, I've just highlighted Kareem here because this is just, it's incredible driving, really. I'll be honest with you. As he makes his way, brake marker board's already shattered. A man who's learned this season how to operate without the famous rainbow snake. We can see him sliding the rear of the car. Such confidence on the intermediate tyres. We move forwards to this turn here. The sweeping left-hander just kisses the first apex absolutely perfectly. I mean, it was a monstrous margin. He picked up Inter's pole by. Didn't quite convert it into a pole position for the main event, but even so, it is a bonus point, the last bonus point for intermediates of the season. Again, just uses the pendulum, swings it absolutely beautifully, and in the end, as we know, he came across the line having pretty much nailed every single apex. Sumptuous lap to watch, 3 purple sectors, 9 tenths dropped on the 2-time champion who starts in P7. Contrasting fortunes in qualifying, we go to Super Noodle Bagel. Now, he already passed Jess Ball in terms of traffic. She got well out of the way. However, others probably weren't so kind. Tukey, lackadaisical during the chicane. You can see the wash of dirty air on the front end. Doesn't hit the first apex. Gets a slide on the rear of the car. Holds he holds his 3.5 tenths advantage, but what more it could have been for the Mercedes man. And then highlighting Formula Kai, I was literally in the process of finding his sector 1 and 2. Because look at this 3/10 margin. That is the margin he held from the first 2 sectors. His first 2 sectors were absolutely immaculate. Credit where credit is due. In terms of raw 1-lap pace, Kai absolutely smashed it out of the park on his final lap. Meraki got close, but not close enough. Even so, a flick of the wheel into the final corner. Pole position for the taking. But how about that? In the context of the championship, all the advantage favours the Sauber